Right. So if you move on to solutions, one first thing is whether marry or not. That was our first problem. And like I said, if you're very clear that you don't have lofty ambitions and you don't have a uh, very defined future for yourself that we are trying to get to, and then perhaps there is no use in having that ego standoff with your parents or the society, and just don't get married for the sake of it. Get married if that's the thing, right? I mean, take a judgment call there and sit down and have a think. That's one. And as common opinion goes, that marriage will put things into perspective and probably will make you a better human being, and you might be able to focus on your career and whatnot better. And like you said, the explanations where if you get married early on at the point like your financial peak at like 45, 46, you have an independent child and you are free to
And
roam
both of
around.
them, I'm talking about both both partners are doing quite well in life. It's going to be a formidable economic combination.
Yeah. But the other case, if you don't want to get married, then that's an independent choice. In this liberal world, that should be
But
allowed. So you should not let anyone bully you into
yeah,
marrying.
but we know, like, while that is, of course, it's allowed and it's people's free choice and all of that, but I think it shouldn't happen like en masse, because I still believe, as a conservative, that family is the most functioning unit of a society, like a functioning family. It is, sane families that have bought, sane generations that still sustain the world as is. So I think that the family is like the fundamental unit in society, and I think people ought to be married when they fully understand the institution of marriage and have some respect for it. It can't be a more marriage of just like a convenience, or like loose understanding of.
Yeah, no, this adds to the yes part of this
Yeah.
question. Marry, yes or
Yes.
no? And in yes, what you said is a valid argument. It is the fabric of society. That institution has stood the test of
Yes.
time, and it has moved the civilization
Forward.
forward. Right?
Absolutely.
That's
There
all
is,
given. And
and people need to understand the significance of it. Like, in the sense, I mean to say that it's an important institution.
the no part is not to say that because of your ideology you should not marry. That's not the case, regardless of your ideology, whether you're conservative or
Yeah.
liberal or whatever. It's a choice, right? Ultimately, in this free world. Otherwise, there is no point of telling that we live in a free world. The thing is, you should not let anyone else, parents, friends, or society, to bully you into
Yeah.
marrying. And there might be a price that you need to pay. Probably, like you said, there is silent treatment and whatnot. But ultimately, it's your choice. The life might get miserable after that. Because I've heard, that it's always a compromise. When you marry, like you said, it's always a compromise. You're adapting to each
Yes.
other. And you'll always question that decision of marriage, always, throughout the life. But then you start seeing the positive and then you get on with it.
No, I just to add to your point, the thing is, see, when you're, my only reason to tell people not to get married until they're fully sure about what they're getting into is because, let's say you're not married, later in life you repent and you regret and you're living very miserably. You're at least only doing that to yourself. But if you marry, then you're making two people
Yeah.
miserable. And if you bring a child to that equation, you're traumatizing that child also unnecessarily. So at least be miserable like alone, and like figure it out, as opposed to like ruining it for another two people and then families, which is quite unfair. Yeah.
Yeah, so at that point, let's say, for example, 30, don't beg or plead or bargain, whine, cry. I mean, this is a quote from one of those internet posts. Just tell them, don't ask them, don't request them. This is them, it's parents and society and relatives. Just tell them that you will not marry. You know what I mean? If you go about begging, pleading, and whatnot, that's when it becomes even more toxic, because you're vulnerable now, and then they'll easily sense, and you sort of be the prey, and then they are the
Yeah.
predators. So yeah, be firm on your stance. Next is the obstacles that we mentioned, like caste and status, and whatever financial status, and then everything. It will take many more generations to be solved. So at the moment, if you're sure there won't be any honor killings or suicide, then be the change that you want to see in the world. Either you can be single, or if you say you like someone and so from a different caste or religion and you want to be together, go for it, right? And but I don't know. I mean, then I'm not saying, for me, if you ask me, I would say go for it. But that's my age. I'm probably quite brave and whatnot. But if you're apprehensive about something like honor killing or suicide, then take a judgment call. You will know what to do. So based on that. But that, as I said, it's quite deep rooted. It'll take many more generations to be solved. So that's the reality. Third one, involving relatives and other community members from society is not a good idea. It's they don't have very good intentions for you. They are just repeating the rhetoric, because if there is some crisis in their family, they will just run away and then forget about all your problems, especially your marriage problems. So involving relatives in conversations is genuinely a bad idea. Then things like when so I told you about this ego standoff between parents and child, and then parents think they have the divine right for the unwavering obedience that they seek from their children, right? And they say, for us, you are still that little kid that we used to carry around. Tell them, no, we are not, because we now have jobs and careers and bosses and whatnot, and our genitalia has started doing funny things, right? So it's that's the truth. It's still not the kid that you used to carry around. Then this is another quote which I would like to tell, which is from the internet again. It says, mostly society tells you that if you don't get married, then you will die alone. But let me tell you the truth. Married or not, everyone dies alone, true. Which is absolutely true. Yeah, that's true. So it's just that before the time that you die, when you live, that's when it matters. Exactly. So if the argument is that you die alone, that's not a problem.
You live alone should be more scary of an argument, that you're going to be living alone.
That's
if that scares you, then get married.
Yeah. Then we talk about mental health. If you're having anxiety attacks and panic attacks, not able to sleep and whatnot, and then your friends are getting married at an alarming rate, which is sort of getting into your head. How you're getting to know this is probably social media, and there's so much pressure. Obviously, everyone post about the good things in their life. Nobody is posting something which says bad that has happened. They put themselves in a better position. I mean, I don't know. Even it's cynical to bring down someone else's level. You're trying to raise your level always. And you don't see whether the person who is seeing that post is having the same feeling. So social media is definitely creating and spreading a fake world. People, when they post from their partying or that good vacation in different places, and then all that is good. I mean, definitely there must be something sad that's going on in your life. Post that as well. Either that or just get off social media if you're getting extreme anxiety attacks and whatnot. And if you have toxic parents, nothing much to do about it.
Stay toxic. Stay toxic.
You have really, I don't know. I mean, it's stay away.
No, maybe. I mean, I don't know, dude. Stay away.
No, I remember the story from our family itself when a lady in our family used to go to work, and then but the money that she earned, she had to hand over to her father. And remember that time when her footwear kind of tore apart, and then she had no money to buy a new footwear. She had to walk barefoot from place A to place B, and then the parent was taking all that money and just giving the bus allowance or travel allowance on a daily basis allowance. And take the rest and then go on vacationing and whatnot. That's toxic. That's toxic.
That is,
And
but you know what? But that's the thing, right? Like sometimes you're in life, you're dealt like miserable cards, and unfortunately, yeah, you can choose to throw those cards down. Sometimes you're like, despite all of that, you still have some, goodness
yeah,
in you, because it's still the father, it's still the mother. Uh, they're
yeah,
imperfect human beings, but you know, you still shoulder some responsibility when they're old and tired, and they're they kind of
yeah.
need you. So I know it's toxic, but I think, again, like, remember we spoke about this. I don't think we should constantly live in victimhood, um, and like denial and escape should not be like the first thing. I always believe, like, in diplomacy, like, the more there is resistance, the more you've got to
Mm-hmm.
go there and try bringing them to your side as much as you can. And eventually it'll fall into place. Eventually they might, I mean, fall into place need not necessarily be there in complete compliance and agreement with you, but they have the space where they let you be and you let them be. So
The the truth is, I like that optimism, to be honest, and I am on the same page. I have at least, I have not
big,
felt anything toxic in my
absolutely.
life, so that's great. But some of the stories that I have
Yeah.
listened to
No,
for this
yeah,
episode, which
not all of them.
not I have
Yeah,
shared here,
yeah,
which are extremely toxic, and they requested not to share
yeah.
those.
But my point is, like, but how far will you run away from toxicity? How long will you run away? Okay, if it's not your parent, you might have a boss.
Don't put up with it. You know what I mean? You just
Yeah, yeah. Confront it. Confront
one of
toxicity.
those
Yeah, yeah.
stand up,
Correct.
basically. It's not like one of those, the two world theory where you say if you suffer much in this life, you will be better in next life. Oh, well, screw that. That's not going to happen. Just stand up if you are being oppressed in any
Yeah.
manner.
If you feel you're being oppressed, yes. And if sometimes the best way to deal with toxicity is to showcase some toxicity of your own, and then suddenly they're like, oh, I messed with the wrong bull, and so just like, there's fun ways to deal with the world, like, I don't think people should be limiting their
Yeah,
options.
always use humor
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, use humor sense. Come up with inventive
Exactly.
way to
and
show
you
that you are not
and
going to
you
put
can
up with
have
this. Yeah.
my I don't know about how better you can make ideas, but you can always have a lot more worser idea than that person. Like, I believe fundamentally that it's possible
Right.
in the
Yeah.
human spirit to do that. So think of worse ideas. There are multiple ways to deal with it. I don't think people should, like, be too caught up and be like, oh, I got treated this way. Again, no victimhood, basically.
True that. Next one is rejections. There is one thing which I like, ghosting. Like,
Ooh.
there is some kind of one person ghosts other, like they're not giving a reply on whether it's an yes or no on the
Hmm.
marriage. And it's very interesting because I spoke to one person who was
Hmm.
ghosted. What do you call the
Hmm.
ghosty? So the ghosty told me
Hmm.
that that person felt very bad because waiting on the reply for so many, but you don't know whether it's a yes or
Yeah.
no, and then it's probably yes from your
Hmm.
side. Obviously, that's the case, and then you're just waiting on it, and you think it's a good prospect, but then you can't wait for months, and then eventually hear nothing from that and move on. So those 3 months is gonna be really, or sometimes they see a post where they got married
Hmm.
or whatever,
Hmm.
right? So that's bad. But the ghoster told me that they ghost because they don't know how to say
Yeah.
no to anyone. Apparently, it's the goodness of their heart. So I'm going to say, like, as a it's like it's hard for me to tell no. It's a valid thing. It's hard for me to tell a no. So I think in order to not uh, experience their sadness when you convey this news that
Hmm.
it's a no, they kind of ghost. So that's the ghosty relationship. So rule of thumb: if somebody is ghosting you, fuck them, because it's because of their goodness of heart that they don't want to
No,
make you
but
feel
but but
bad,
I
and then
think
just get
but I
on with
think
it.
there are, like, multiple situations where people ghost. Like, one is of course they can't say no. Okay. Two is, now everything is a yes, but you still want more, and you don't know what to say no for. you know You're like, see, you're way too perfect for me. I now don't know how to say, like, I don't deserve this, So that can be another scenario. The third scenario can be,
Everything is
yeah,
perfect. Everything is
yeah,
perfect. This is not right. This can't happen to me.
exactly. Exactly. How can life treat me so well? So I am leaving, and I don't know how to say no because you're perfect. There's no flaw in you. But I want to screw
Something
myself
spooky
over.
about being perfect. There is a
Exactly.
hidden agenda.
Exactly. So then that's the second scenario. And then I think the third scenario is when that wretched person on the other side cannot take a no for an answer. Like you tell no and you
Yeah,
tell like I'm not interested, but then there's still so much happening. So then you just end up, ghosting them.
yeah,
But I think this ghosting and all of that is this millennial Gen Z speak. Okay, I think India is a very ancient civilization. Indians have perfected ghosting, and I think it's unfair to call it ghosting. What comes to my mind very vividly is Narasimha Rao. PV Narasimha Rao, one of our
yeah.
greatest prime ministers India's ever had. So I think he was in the midst of political controversy in his tenure, where the Ayodhya riots happened, and all of that, and suddenly the press was terming him with different names, and so he also had many economic committee reforms to be done. So I think our former Home Minister Chidambaram, asks him in one of their meetings that Prime Minister, you've not told a yes or a no, you've not taken a decision on this matter, on this pressing issue. So apparently he looks at Chidambaram and says. Chidambaram, not taking a decision is also a decision, so that I think, like, kicking the can down the road is something our judiciary, our executive, and our legislative have perfected it. So I think Gen Z has a lot to learn about this quote unquote ghosting from our method of governance and
Mm-hmm.
statecraft.
Yeah. Okay. On a serious note, I mean, for the solution for how to deal with the rejections, until you become a seasoned ghostee, keep some rule of thumbs like probably 14 days from the day you ask the question, or yeah, or if you're on the other side, if you find it difficult to convey, then use someone else to convey if you don't want to experience that sadness in the other
Yeah,
person.
or just say it to them. Let's not make this awkward. Let's ghost each other. Like, let's just talk about ghosting, and so I make it acceptable that I know, we don't want to say no to each other and end it. Let's just like ghost each other. So there's acceptance.
Yeah.
But dealing with rejection, remember that YouTube video that I shared with you like many years ago. It's a TED talk with this Asian guy on rejection. Have you?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
goes out there and seeks rejection, right? I think people ought to do that in marriages. So if you're in
yeah.
matrimonial sites, let's say you're a guy, just like try to match with someone who's like 65x better than you, right? And then get rejected. And then you do that consistently, right? And then you will start to live with
Yeah.
yourself in peace. So go out there and seek rejection, get used to rejection. That's the only way you can deal with rejection. Like, wake up to get rejected, you know? Like, wake up and ask your parents, saying
Yeah, yeah.
that, Ma, Dad, today you transfer all the assets to my name. And they say no. And that's how you need to start your day. So the more you get rejected, the more seasoned you become to it. That's my philosophy on rejection, dealing with it at least.
That's nice one.
Yeah.
Right. Next is this. This is a good one actually. So you know that biological cycle for women, it converges when they're at the age of 30, right? And
I
then
don't know,
they are worried
like
about
in the
having
sense the
kids.
biological clock, you mean? Like where they have this urge to have children. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the biological
Okay.
clock.
Yeah,
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 yeah, sorry.
yeah.
And they keep saying it's the clock is ticking and then
Yeah.
whatnot. So apparently you can go to a fertility center and then store your healthy eggs,
In a
and
fridge.
then you know yeah, in a fridge, and then it is a scientific method of having the healthy eggs preserved
It's called,
for a
this is
later
called
use.
uppulita, achar and jam, we used to call it in Nadan terms. Ovaries ne uppulide.
No, I mean, this is serious. People are not aware of this. This is a genuine possibility where you can have your eggs preserved, and and then plan all the other things like have the financial stability and then career and home and everything that you're craving, and then once everything is done, then you can go back to having kids. Other points are maybe counseling sessions for parents and kids if it gets extremely worrisome. And as I said, lifelong you will be evaluating if you did the right thing, but one of the reasons is part of the experience, when you get there.
It's only a life.
It's just a life. After all, it's just a life, like the Lebanese grandfather said. I absolutely love him for that quote. Right. Closing remarks. So I say no one should marry from any societal obligations or bullying. It's like forcing vegetarians to eat meat. Whenever you're ready, do it. Have a think and then see if you're ready at every point in life, and then go for it. So don't lose yourself in this process. Try to have a healthy conversation, and if there is counseling possible, take it. Companionship for long terms is like Vishnu said, it's sort of the fabric of society, and how we move forward. It keeps things in balance. It's probably much more necessary. So do appreciate the institution of marriage. But that's after marriage. So that's definitely there is a silver lining after marriage. At least it has happened to the majority of people. So that's definitely true. Don't be prejudiced.
And also, I don't think people should live in false pretense that they're just going to be amazingly great and everything, and then like do nothing and then be miserable here as well. Like don't fail on both fronts. Like
100%.
Not have like this over exaggerated.
And then much things are inevitable. What can happen will happen. So on a philosophical note, and everyone has issues. There is mommy issues, daddy issues that people are facing in the world, and then for parents, everyone has problems with their children. So, and as I said, it's because of the vice versa love and that phenomenon, which is quite unique to our country. Parents and children will always love each other. And really, if you don't know the reason why, it's just a cultural phenomenon that we are seeing in our country. And if this relationship is healthy, then our society is sorted.
Agreed.
Thank you, Vishnu, for joining and all those wise words and then alternative thoughts. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this session.
Anytime.
Thank
when
you.
When are you getting married, Ra? You're old, no?
Who isn't?
Stay black, stay toxic, stay woke, stay everything.
Stay everything, be everything. Live your life.
You got just one, so.
And after all, it's just a life.
After all, it's just a life, and you just have, for now at least one of it. So, might as well do everything in it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Until next time, bye-bye.
See you. Cheers.